At 7 in the morning, before the alarm even went off, Mark was already awake. He wasn't startled awake, just naturally, peacefully conscious. Sunlight slipped through the blinds, drawing warm streaks across the floor. He turned and saw Emily still asleep, her breathing soft, a faint smile on her lips. Mark didn't move. He simply watched her for a moment. The smell of coffee drifted in from the kitchen, a Colombian roast with a hint of caramel. The coffee maker had already finished. Mark got up quietly, poured a cup, and stood by the window, sipping slowly. Outside, the neighborhood was calm. A neighbor's golden retriever rolled in the yard, and distant church bells began to ring. This was his 7th year in Nashville, a modest house. A municipal engineering job he'd held for 4 years. A wife he'd loved for 5 years, and married for 2. They weren't rich, but they lacked nothing. They saved a little each month, traveled once a year. Friends often said, "You two are doing really well." Mark believed that too, at least, until that moment. Change rarely comes from disaster. It begins on an ordinary afternoon. That day, a new project arrived redeveloping drainage in an old neighborhood. Mark was assigned to survey work with Daniel, a younger colleague from Atlanta. Daniel drove a brand-new Porsche Cayenne, its metallic gray body shining in the sun. "Hey, Mark! Hop in!" Mark glanced at his own 2016 Ford Focus peeling paint, an old coffee cup still in the holder. He smiled and got into Daniel's car. Leather seats, a sleek digital dashboard. Music from some indie band Mark didn't know. Daniel said casually, "Fuel's not bad. But honestly, I don't care. Life's short." Mark nodded, but his eyes kept drifting to the glowing Porsche logo. The work went smoothly, but on the drive back, Mark couldn't stop thinking about the car. It wasn't jealousy, not even quite envy. Just a quiet thought. Maybe I should get a new car too. At first, it was light. But over the next days, it grew. On social media, his college friend Jason posted about a promotion sharp suit, glass offers, smiling emoji instead of a salary answer. At a family gathering, his cousin talked about a used boat. Even his neighbor upgraded to a sleek new lawnmower. Individually, they meant nothing. Together, they stirred something unfamiliar in Mark. What he had no longer felt like enough. He didn't act impulsively, but he started small. A smartwatch over $2,000. For health, he told himself. Emily said nothing, just used more leftovers that night, quietly cutting back. He asked Daniel about investments, transferred $3,000 meant for emergencies to a recommended advisor. He even test drove a used white BMW 3 Series. The salesman offered a $600 monthly payment. Sitting behind the wheel, Mark imagined driving it everywhere: work, groceries, friends' houses. But the math was clear. More monthly costs, slower savings, fewer trips. He hesitated. Only briefly. "I deserve this," he told himself. He framed it as reward, improvement, even something Emily would like. He was close to signing. The turning point came that Saturday. At the lake, his cousin's small boat felt thrilling, but bigger boats passed by. One with a slide and grill. Mark noticed his cousin staring at it. The look was familiar. Back home, Mark reviewed his finances. The smartwatch, investments, deposited had added up. His credit card bill would be high. Emily asked, "Should we visit your parents this week? Maybe later?" Mark said, not looking up. She paused, then walked away. That night, Mark couldn't sleep. His mind raced if the investment worked, if he bought the car, if he got promoted. Every if pulled him forward. Then, in the middle of the night, he made a decision. He messaged the advisor, investing all his remaining savings, $12,000, into a high-risk stock. "Are you sure?" "Yes." He didn't tell Emily. A week later, the stock dropped 30%. 2 weeks later, it lost half. Mark panicked. He checked constantly, watching the numbers fall. He couldn't tell Emily. At work, he was distracted. At home, silent. He stopped sleeping. But what truly broke everything wasn't the investment. It was what came next. One Friday, Daniel took him out, drinking. Mark had 3 glasses of whiskey enough to forget for a moment. On the way home, Daniel asked, "You okay?" Mark hesitated. 10 admitted, "I lost almost everything." Daniel pushed, then said, "I know someone. Short-term trades. One good move, and you could recover it. Want in?" Mark looked at the neon-lit streets, thought of his shrinking account. How? Daniel sent a link. That weekend, Mark invested his remaining money into a platform he didn't understand. At first, it rose slightly. His heart raced. It felt like gambling. Monday morning, the site wouldn't load. Unable to access this site, he refreshed again and again. Nothing. Daniel didn't reply. When he finally did, he shrugged. Happens sometimes. Mark sat at his desk. The world spinning. Everything gone. That Saturday, Mark sat at the kitchen table. Bills spread out. Emily stood across from him, holding a bank notice. "Mark," she said calmly, "what is this?" He couldn't answer. "Our savings?" she asked. "You said you were careful. I believed you. What did you do?" Mark lowered his head. Felt like a chased a reflection in water, something bigger. Better and thrown everything real away to catch it. "I'm sorry." Emily stood there for a long time. Then she turned, went into the bedroom, and gently closed the door. The sound was soft, but to Mark, it felt like everything ended. Later, he often thought of that morning, the sunlight, the coffee, Emily's quiet breathing. He had everything then. It was real. It was enough. But he didn't see it. He chased a reflection built from social media, luxury cars, casual conversations about easy money. It looked better than what he had. So he let go of what was real and reached for what wasn't, and found nothing. Only himself. He didn't lose everything because he had nothing. He lost it because he believed it wasn't enough. This story isn't about money. Mark would rebuild. He and Emily would talk, face the consequences together. But in that moment, greed doesn't make you rich. It makes you lose what you already have. You think more brings satisfaction, but satisfaction was always in the sunlight, the coffee, the quiet breathing of someone you love, and what you already have. One bone is already everything. Have you ever had a similar experience? Have you ever almost lost what truly matters for a reflection? Before you let go of what you hold, pause and ask, is it real or just a reflection?